This is a home in Georgia that we installed the front door in 2007, and this is a home that we've been watching and monitoring to determine if our finishes, particularly the rustic walnut or the rustic mahogany, fade. And so we've decided that there is, if you look in this video, a very slight amount of fading on the southern facing doors and that little laundry room door. However, the east facing door has shown no signs of changing in coloration. So this is a very slight amount of if you look at that, it's a very slight amount of fading, I think, but we recognize the difference between the original and this. So after 7 years of being installed, this is what we've observed. So what we're doing today, since the basis of the rustic walnut and mahogany are stained finishes, is a rejuvenation. And this video is going to be made for the purpose of demonstrating the ease at which it is applied. It doesn't take long, it's easy to do, and it is something that we want our customers to be aware of. I think one thing is really important to understand, that if this were a wooden door, it wouldn't be looking like this at all. It wouldn't be a matter of fading after 7 years of installation with a southern exposure. It would be falling apart or already have been replaced. There's no damage to the door. The integrity of the door is perfectly fine. There's no seams in the door, so there's no swelling. There's no, breakage of the lines. This actually is all one piece of material due to our technique in manufacturing. But just think that there's some of these things are a little bit light. So we're going to demonstrate how to bring the color back to its original manufactured color. And that, of course, will last another 7 years, and it should only take about an hour. The first thing I want to talk about is the conditions that you want to have in terms of time and place and temperature or time of year or whatever to be able to do this job correctly. You cannot do this work in the direct sun. The finishes, they basically dry too fast, and they're going to be gummy and very difficult to manage. You want to pick a nice day. This is in Georgia right now. It's about 65 degrees. It's October. It's a perfect day to do this. However, as you can see, the door is in the sunlight, and that is unacceptable also. That's easy to remedy by just taking the door and not taking it off the hinges at all, but just opening the door and doing the work on the inside that we're going to do right now. All right, so we're going to prepare to do this, and so we have the door open, and as you can see, the door is not in the sun. So the door is perfectly positioned for us to be able to proceed. So one thing we're going to do is put paper underneath the door and tape it down. So if there's any spillage, we don't want to ruin this nice lady's tile floor. All right, so we're just going to tape that down. Okay, so we've got this paper. You could use cardboard or anything, but just got this paper to cover the floor and protect the floor. The next step is to remove the weather stripping. This is the compression weather stripping that just basically goes around every door, and it just pulls out. You want to go ahead and remove that, because when we're finished, we're going to be able to lock this door and let the finish dry. It's in a few hours without the door touching anything. It will not touch the compression weather stripping and will not leave any marks. Once the door is completely dry, even maybe the next day, we'll reinstall the weather stripping. Very simple. All right, the next step is going to be that we want to anchor the door to prevent the door from swinging or moving while we're working on it. If you have somebody to hold the door, I guess you could do this as a two-man job, but this really is just a a one-man job, so we're just kind of getting some shims underneath that door, and we're going to stack them up and bind the bottom of the door so it doesn't move back and forth. Okay, not the prettiest sight, but it's nice and firmly held down, and it isn't going to move while we continue the operation. It is necessary to remove the lock set, so that's just a matter of using a Phillips head screwdriver to work on both sides of that lock until you've taken it off. It takes just a couple of minutes. Well, now we have the door stabilized. We have the hardware removed. It's not necessary to remove these components of the hardware. Now we've got apparently a little painter has also got a little paint on the edge. We'll fix that. And the next step is going to be to just do a light sanding. You're going to get two blocks like this of sandpaper. It has a 150 grit or so. This has a 100 grit. You might not even use both standards. I just kind of prefer this one to start with. I generally like to start at the bottom of the door and work my way up, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to hold the door here, and just, particularly if I see any little marks that they splashed on from the painters or whatever, and I'm just going to do a little fine hand sanding. We're not sanding down through the existing finish. We're not causing it to be any lighter in color, although it looks like it, but that is just strictly the more or less like dust from the sander. So we're getting a little bit of dust, barely any. We just want to do this all around. It's going to make our stain application and our finish application adhere better. But the way that they're designed, they really weld into each other. I see some painters got a couple of marks here on the door, so I'm going to fix that for them also. And there's no point why not. Now, I really wanted to set a timer on this, but I forgot to. But I do want you to see that I don't think I've been sanding for but like 1 minute. I think I can sand this door to perfection in probably less than 2 minutes. I mean, I'm coming down the other side already. I'm almost done. And I'm still using one piece of sand. I'm going to be able to do this whole door with just this one block. If I feel like I'm getting built up here, I can rotate it. For considering 7 years, that's not much fading. Again, we would love to have a product that didn't ever fade. But honestly, there isn't any such thing. It's not a steel door, an iron door, paint, any stained product, or even the fiberglass doors. They are going to fade over a period of time. This has proven to perform better than any of the finishes that fade. Okay, well, I'm finished with that process. All right, I kind of didn't mention this in the process of doing the sanding, but I don't want you to sand up against the glass, okay? This, if you'll notice, this really hasn't faded. And that's because this section of the door absorbs more. But this edge right here is too close to the glass. If you try to get in there and sand that, you're going to scratch the glass, and it's just basically not necessary. But the flat surface of the grill, or some of the easier sections of the grill, is fine. So we're done with that. So completing that sanding, I don't know, you can probably tell on your video down there how long that took. 2-3 minutes. Now we're just simply going to wipe this down with a dry, brand new microfiber rag just to take that dust off. Okay, the gel stain product that you're going to need to use for the rejuvenation, it will probably be more emulsified this, but since this is a brand new can, I'm going to have to do a little bit of stirring. As you can see, it's very thick material, but it needs to be just like any other paint or any other finish for that matter, needs to be stirred slightly. If there's any pigmentation settlement on the bottom, you definitely want to get that up. And then we want this to be, you know, a pretty smooth product. Okay, we've stirred this up. I want to just kind of get my brush in condition to get some on there evenly. And now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to start working my way up the door. And I'm going to brush it out. And voila! Look what's happening. The grain is coming through. We're enriching the color right back to its original color. Just a nice thin amount spread out. If you get a little glop on there, just keep working it, keep painting it. It's a very smooth product. And do like that. I'm going to change positions here so I can go around the door. I like to work from the bottom up. Just applying it. I'm going to stay away from the glass. I'm not taping out the glass or anything. I don't see any problem with the coloration of the buttons on this door. Really, basically, these big surface areas. This whole point of this video is to demonstrate the technique and the fact that, you know, really this is pretty easy to do. You know, you don't have to be a professional painter by any means. I'm not a professional painter. You don't have to be a professional painter to do this. Of course, if you want to hire a professional painter to do this, that's fine. You know, you can see that I am working pretty fast. And that's because this product it dries very fast. And I really don't want to get into a situation where, you know, I'm going back over and making trying to work with a kind of density of the finish that's drying already, that looks very gummy. So it's just really a matter of kind of working quickly and doing that. The nice thing about the rustic finishes is, well, they're beautiful, of course, but also let me mention, you can see that I'm making an effort to go in the direction of the grain. That's important. You do not want to go across grain. So the grain is going up and down here. I'm using this stroke here. The grain is going on a 45. I'm going on a 45 here. Then it's changing here to another 45, so I'm going to change over here. I want to brush this out just a little bit more here to get the color that I want. Then I'm coming across here. I don't know, I think this might be going faster than the sanding. I think we're probably looking at maybe 2 or 3 minutes to do this whole door. So again, you don't have to do any patching. You don't have to do any wood fill. You're not trying to deal with anything like you would with wood. Never rust, warp, rot, bow, crack, split. It's just a totally amazing product. Really the revolutionary way to manufacture an exterior door. The only thing that I have seen since we've been making these doors for about 12 years is the possibility that since this is a stained base on our rustic finishes for the walnut and the mahogany, is the fact that because stain does fade over a period of time in direct sunlight, that it possibly could. So that's kind of why we've been watching this house. This has been an experiment to kind of continually monitor this, and about once a month or once every couple of months, swing by here, take a look, and monitor how it's going to go. But I think something that lasts for 10 years or 8 or 9 or 7 years and is easy to remedy, the coloration aspect of it, as easy as this is pretty amazing. I would love to say that you will never ever have to deal with maintenance of our finish by having to rejuvenate the color. You know, it's every intention that we have to design finishes that are that way. But the fact is, when you use a stain-based finish, you are going to have to do some kind of rejuvenation or touch-up, or I don't know what you want to call it. The same technique can be used if there were a nick that had to be wood-filled. You would just fill it, sand it, and then apply this coating. That happens fairly commonly with some of the doors that we ship and are installed by installers and accidentally, you know, make a little scratch or a chip in the finish of the door. It's just super easy to fix because, particularly with the rustic finishes, because you know, if I put a gouge or a scratch in this door, it wouldn't do anything but enhance the rustic quality of the door. So just kind of going around the moldings here, putting a nice additional amount of color on them, and then I'll do these planks. Okay, so you know what? Did the bottom panel, did these panels. Looking at this, see a few little light spots that I'd really like to see a little more color on there, so I'm going to put a little more color on there. I don't really want this even. It doesn't look normal. Now, I think the last thing I want to do, besides repairing the damage, or not damage, the paint glob that we saw earlier that some painter did, is to just go around this edge. See that white paint spot? It's gone. We'll go down near the hardware. I don't recommend that you try to get all around the hardware and everything. It's difficult to do. It's unnecessary. This is actually an interior surface. So I might just barely touch that a little. But if you have any marks and you want to go over those to you know, make the edge of the door perfect, I still see one little teeny white spot on that. If I have to, I'll sand it, but I think that is going to fix it right there. And just dab a little color on there and fix it. So done. Fabulous. Okay, so you're going to say, well, okay, how long does this take to dry before I can do my top coat? It's a beautiful day, so we're going to wait 30 minutes or so before we do the top coat, and we can tell in 30 minutes by touch whether it's possible to do the top coat. If it's really cold, it would take longer to dry, and that's pretty much the reason why we took out that weather stripping, because actually at this point, if we want to finish this project tomorrow and just go ahead and let this dry overnight, we can carefully install a portion of the lock set. We can close the door gently, and there'll be nothing touching the edges around the perimeter of the door because the weather stripping is not here. We're not going to do that because we have perfect conditions. We want to stir the finish coat a little. All coats need to be stirred, not shaken. Do not put it in a shaker. Any kind of water-based product will just get turned foamy and have bubbles and leave bubbles in your finish. So we just stir gently, thoroughly, and then we're ready to apply it. I think the best thing to do is to start in the reverse and work your way down. We're going to use just a 2-inch wide brush. We're going to apply some thin coats, but we are going to go in the grain of the wood. Well, not wood, in the grain of the composite. And we're just going to put in a nice coat. There might be a little buildup in some of the grooves, and we want to get that out so we don't have runs. And we're just going to go that way until we feel like we pretty much unloaded our brush. Again, here, I'm going to add some more. You don't want to like flood this finish with this product. Of course, I failed to mention that our door is completely dry within a couple of hours, and this is just going to work out perfectly. And I'm going to move on down. I'm going to stretch out that amount of finish that's in the brush, not overdoing it. You can see that the top coat has a chalky, white, milky kind of appearance. That is typical of water-based top coats in urethane. Very, very smooth and has the highest UV protection of even the best oil-based products. So what we want to do in this technique is just keep our leading edge wet. In other words, we're going to again, I'm going in the direction of the grain. Come from this side. Now, since I started at the top and worked my way around, I'm going to come back up here on this side and start at the top and work my way around. I know the lighting isn't great right here. Well, the clear coat has dried. We have now put the lock set back on. We're going to just go ahead and close this door. And take a look at that. Is that unbelievable? We have just perfectly restored the coloration of 7 years of fading in a couple of hours.